There it is. And we're live back again with another episode, a guest episode here with a close friend of mine, Mr. John. What's your last name, John?
Kercheval.
Kercheval. It's very, I gotta say, knight-like last name. Very fancy. Kercheval. And as always,
like, I don't know the original, but it was like from Germany.
there you go. Boom. As always, my co-host to either my left or my right. I don't know where you're going to be appearing, but you're here.
I'm here.
That's your signal of being here.
Yeah. It's like sending a distress signal, like, hey.
I'm here. Yeah. So again, we're back here with another guest episode. Super excited about this one. John is a friend of mine who I met under interesting circumstances. I don't think I've ever just met someone the way I met John. So, maybe we'll get into that. But he's a super interesting individual into photography, astrophotography, if I'm not mistaken. Also really has the entrepreneurial mindset. So we'll have to dive into that for sure. And just well-rounded, cool dude, I think. Also cool in school. So, that's also, he also knows what the struggle bus is about. So, yeah. So, John, you want to get us started? Just tell us a little bit about yourself, superficial level stuff, and then we can dive into deeper things.
All right. So my name's John, as you've heard. But I'm 21 years old. I go to Arizona State University. I'm trying to get my degree in IT, information technology, and I plan to kind of branch off that into data science or AI, kind of computer systems. But on the side, I like to do photography, either with a regular photography camera, a telescope, or a drone. I recently purchased. That thing's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
especially insane. In the mountains.
Yeah, I gotta say, an underappreciated thing from John that I noticed, he knows how to buy things very cheaply. And I know Omar is also a huge fan of that because he's always like, dude, look an offer up. Like, you don't have to buy it new, all these sort of things. I'm like, no, but it has to be new. But yeah. You two, I know for sure are like hustlers on those apps, Craigslist, offer up, just like getting good stuff that's maybe used, good stuff that's broken that you can fix. But overall, I honestly think I should probably learn from you guys a little bit about that. Yeah, you've been getting, how much did that drone cost real quick?
Retail, it goes for about $1,300. I bought it off Amazon used for $900. Amazon has a return policy that they can only use it for 30 days and then return the item. So it's pretty much mint condition if they didn't fuck it up,
Yeah.
But
there you go.
I mean, just look at the certain stuff you can get for used because it's a steal.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I'd much rather buy something at the expense of somebody else, like, oh, you're trying to sell it for $100 less.
You buy it from Juan. There you go.
Buy it after I used.
Yeah, say, hey, Juan, sell me your furniture, bro. I'll give you $50.
I am selling my furniture. I'm not gonna get it, not for $50 though.
Do a free ad on the podcast if anybody's looking for furniture. Reach out to Juan, please.
Looking for furniture, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, every time I see Juan in the Starbucks lobby, he's always like, "You have a new laptop?" Because I just like trade and sell.
Every time. This guy has had like so many laptops, and I'm just like, I have two, by the way, and I don't know how many he's gone through, but I've had two for like a year now.
I think this year I've had 3. I think
within a year.
Yeah.
A year's not even over yet.
I know, right? But my main thing is whenever I buy something, I try to at least sell it for what I got it for, or buy something better. Like I had a 2015 15-inch MacBook Pro that I had before this one, and I sold it for $500, which is kind of above market value somehow on Facebook Marketplace, and then bought this one I have now for $525. So it was a 4-year upgrade. But I'm already fun fact, I have one set up today that I'm trying to get for another steal. That's even better than this one, so I could probably edit my videos on. Because one thing with the drone that I didn't realize is it shoots very high quality video, but I didn't realize the amount of processing power that you need for 4K editing in Premiere Pro. It's a monster.
So it's all 4K?
That's what I'm looking for right now. You can shoot in 1080, but I do prefer shooting in 5.4K and then compressing down to 1080 for Instagram posts.
Yeah.
But it has been a pain in the butt. I know.
Jesus.
So
I
I'm
should
just
have
fucking
recorded this on my
around.
drone camera.
Yeah, so 5 point something, but I'm compressing it actually to this low level that you guys are at.
Yeah.
This
I have
1080p.
to steep down to your guys' level. Okay.
For real.
Damn. That's cool. And so like what kind of process do you go through when you're editing your stuff or when you want to edit your stuff? Like,
Well, I will say
because
the
you're putting it on Instagram?
Mhm. The drone is really different. Like I'm very good with certain softwares like Adobe, Lightroom, Photoshop. There's an astronomy one that's pretty much focused on astronomy shots only that I'm really
Wow.
good at. It's super complex. But Premiere Pro is what I use for all my videos, and it's another monster that I have not yet mastered. And
Yeah.
it's basically just trying to keep your video quality at your like smallest bit, like you can barely tell it's compressed.
Hmm.
Because Instagram, if you throw a 4K video in there, it'll make it look like you recorded it with like
Potato.
a brick. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But it's a really, I still haven't posted any content with my drone yet just because I don't want to throw something out there just to throw it out there. I want it to
Right.
look good, and I want it to, attract more audience to my accounts. So trying to perfect it right now with some soft posts where I just delete after 5 minutes, but we're getting to the point where I'm confident to post something and I'm proud of it. So
That's awesome.
That's pretty good. That's pretty awesome. I gotta say. I
fun
honestly,
stuff.
part of me wants to get into photography, mainly like travel photography for me because I like to travel. But the thing that always bothers me, maybe not bothers me, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, maybe I should just be enjoying the moment, not taking a picture of it. I mean, I get it, and it makes sense to me, like astrophotography, because like, I mean, it's the sky, right? Like you're still looking at it. So, and especially with your setup where it does it automatically, like you don't have to necessarily be paying too much attention to that, right? So, yeah, I think that setup is pretty good. Ooh, do we have a frozen John here? Are you here,
John?
John? It's gonna be like a seance. John, are you with us?
Yeah, John. We'll give him a few seconds. Stand by.
A few seconds. Oh, it texted me. Yep, it did indeed freeze.
He's glitching a little bit.
Yep. Some technical difficulties here, as
One of the
usual with
issues,
technology.
One of the issues you run into in these podcasts sometimes, but it's all good. We'll
see.
keep it moving.
We'll see if we can get it sorted. By the way, check out my mug. Boom.
Oh,
It says "Morning Handsome."
morning. Yeah, I saw. I was like, what? I was like, yeah, handsome, huh? Okay, I see the handsome.
Come on, man.
That's pretty cool.
Let's see what happens. I think he's gonna join back in. So we can we'll see what we do.
Yeah. So Juan's over there sipping on his morning handsome coffee brewed freshly at home. And what am I
Not
doing?
coffee. Tea.
Oh no! Oh, tea. Sorry, my apologies.
Come on, man.
Fine gentleman over here. Sorry, my apologies. And of
What are you
course, I'm
drinking?
sipping on my Starbucks. The Bucks, man.
Basics,
Bucks.
bro. Basic.
I feel like a basic bitch.
What'd you get? That's what matters. That's what determines whether you are basic or not.
Venti shaken espresso. I guess that's what that says. Oat milk,
Shaken espresso.
blonde espresso, 8 shots of espresso, and some syrup in that.
8 shots.
Yes,
Yo.
sir.
Got me.
Ooh, we
And
have
he's
John
back. And he's
Sorry, I
back.
don't know what happened. I thought it was me, and then
And then it was you? Or was it?
it's either that my computer, I have my PC plugged into my desktop, and I don't think it was getting charged fully, so I have it in the supercharger now.
Gotcha.
All right. No
It's
worries.
all good.
Apologies,
No
guys.
worries. No
All
worries.
good.
No worries. We're going to keep it moving. I think Mr. John over here was lost in the cosmos, but let's bring him back to Earth. Let's keep this going.
Oh my God.
Impressive.
These dad jokes or manager jokes, whatever you want to call them. I don't know. I just can't. It cringy to me. I'm sorry. But I'll allow it. Go ahead. Proceed.
Oh, God. I did want to ask you, John. So from the point that you first started taking these shots to now, like, did it do anything to your, I guess, mentality, like your point of view on life, right? Because I think oftentimes people get lost in their jobs, their 9-to-5s, or school, whatever you got going on, especially as you get older, right? After high school, you get in college, you get stressed out. did this kind of like open you up a bit or kind of make you more curious, or have you seen any changes like that within yourself since you started this kind of journey?
Yeah, definitely. Photography's kind of been that walk away from work I get to have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like it's so stressful at work when I'm doing school and stuff like that that I need to have some time to myself. And
Mm-hmm.
something I enjoy is hiking. Well, I love hiking or going out and just being out in the middle of the nature. And one of the things photography helped me with that is it allowed me to kind of create a memory because my photos aren't just photos to me. If I could I could look at any of my photos and tell you a little backstory behind it because it kind of helps me, almost a way of journaling in my head, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just storing a memory in that area, and I don't know, it's just something I've always enjoyed seeing, and I'm very critical of my own work. I
Yeah.
shouldn't be, but it's a very, I know I can always do better. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
being content with the thing I did. I always want to be 10 steps ahead of where I was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And with my photos, it's pretty cool because it pushes me to keep on going and taking this walk away from everything else in life and just enjoying myself. So it's kind of a drive that I've discovered over the past few years that I'm just really running with.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
That's pretty.
Juan and myself always talk about that, like not being content. Like, when is enough enough? It never is,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because as you exert yourself more, you realize like you're that much more capable of doing more work or being more efficient or being, having better quality come out of whatever work you're doing. And it's like it just keeps expanding, right? With time, like you don't ever actually reach, I guess, an end point, if that makes sense, because there's always
Hmm.
something to improve. And I think that's very admirable, man. That's a good quality to have. Some people are like, ah, man, I hate myself for this, but no, I think that's one of the best qualities to have, to be honest, because that will allow you to achieve like crazy things, right? I mean, what you're doing already is pretty crazy. I mean, these are crystal clear shots. For the people that are listening, we're going to be sharing your Instagram so they can go check it out, as well as we'll be sharing some of your work later on. But these things, like, you don't come across it every day. And like when Juan shared it with me, I was like stunned. I was like, damn, like I've
Hmm.
never seen this like ever on Instagram. And I think what you do is really cool because you're putting it on a platform where, there's like people dancing and like shaking their butts and like people posting a bunch
Booty
of car
pics.
pics and all that. Yeah. But amidst all of that stuff, you have somebody like you that's like, hey guys, I get it. You have short attention spans, but let me bring your attention to this, something that actually matters. Right. And I think that's
Hmm.
honestly really cool, man.
I'd say the hardest thing about keeping the photography drive is honestly social media. It's such a
Mm.
great tool, but it's also a very dangerous tool.
Yeah.
Mm.
Something I have a huge issue with, and I'm sure you could probably apply this to your life in different areas, but I love comparing my photos to other people. Not in a
Uh,
good way, but in a bad way. I'm saying, this person does this. This is way better than I do, kind of stuff like that.
yeah.
Mhm.
And what someone told me is never do that. Never compare your own like talents to someone else's because everybody's specialized in different areas.
Right.
I could look at a Milky Way photo that, you know, best one of the year, and I could get down on myself for it about I'm not how I'm not executing the same results. But then I could also realize, this guy has thousands of other posts just like this. I specialize in a lot more zoomed in shots or just kind of on the moment photography. I don't need to be comparing myself to someone who's so different.
Right.
So that's what I've been kind of combating with, and especially like being a smaller account. I know I do have around 3,000 followers on my Telescope account, but there's always, like I said earlier, that drive. I'm not content with my standings.
Right.
So it's kind of a weird scale. It's not a two-way scale. I'd say it's more than that.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
finding the way to align all of them is the tough part. But we'll see what happens.
Agree.
Interesting.
Yeah. I gotta say one thing, and this was actually the past episode. So I don't know if you listened to it, John, but last episode we were talking about finding your people. So finding the people around you who are going to drive you to those higher levels, to that, better picture, whatever it is, in a healthy way, of course, but still nonetheless driving you forward. And one of the things that we were discussing and that I had realized was probably like a couple of years ago that I realized is like the vibe that you put out there is certainly the vibe that you get back, which I didn't realize before. And I made a mention of you specifically because I was like, I made this friend here, and what are the odds that I made him as a friend? And I have other friends here, of course, but like him specifically, you're probably like the closest friend I have like here. in Arizona since like I moved here. Like, what are the odds that he is the closest friend that I have here? It's like, all right, well, what does he do? He does a bunch of like photography and is extremely passionate and also like perfectionist, right? He does entrepreneurship. You're interested in data science, MLE, all that sort of stuff that I do. And I'm just thinking like, of course, it just makes sense that you attract people who are going to similar lengths, right? So I just wanted to like mention that because like in hearing you talk about like how you think about your photography, how you want to completely, beat the last picture that you took, in terms of editing, in terms of actual shooting the photo, whatever it is, like that is like who we are. And that is like definitely people like us, like just, I genuinely think we like attract closer to each other so that we can, in a sense, you build up and then we build up and then someone else builds up and then you use each other as scaffolding, right, to get to the next level. So I just wanted to make a note of that because it's pretty impressive, I think.
No, it's awesome. I never really looked at it that way. That's a good insight.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to what you were saying about like comparing yourself to others, I mean, that's something that, I mean, even I think as young as like probably like elementary school, I was like dealing with myself because I didn't have a specific role model, if that makes sense, growing up. So I would try to compare myself to the people. And what I found myself, at least later on in life, realizing is like by comparing myself, I started becoming more like that person, right? Because I would notice certain attributes of that person that I liked. I'm like, oh, maybe this guy's funny, or maybe that guy's really artistic, or this guy's a real good athlete, right? And I would try to kind of resonate with that and, double down on that. Like, okay, I want to be more like this. I want to be more like that, right? And I think initially there was a very good quality to that. But I think later on, that's when you kind of start going down slope, right? Because then you realize like, oh, it's actually damaging me, right? Whether it's like your self-esteem, your personal confidence, right? Like if you continue to, I guess, compare yourself directly to people, I think it just kind of goes like downhill, right? Because once you're in a good spot, like once you build your foundation, right? I think from that point on forward, like all you should really be comparing yourself is to yourself, really your past self, right? To keep yourself in line, making sure you're moving forward, right? But like you said yourself, I mean, it's very difficult to compare yourself to the people because people come from different walks of life. People have different mindsets. People come from different backgrounds that you know nothing about, right? And so it's not fair to you or anybody else to compare yourself, right? And again, that's something I struggle with all the time. But I have to remind myself of that. It's like, say if I'm at the gym, right, and I just see somebody like deadlift like a crazy amount of weight, and I'm just like, damn it, like I want to do that, like, and it like frustrates me, and I'm like,
Why am I
like,
not
right next
yoked?
to them. Yeah. Like, why am I not like flexing right now, And then I'll go and do like the highest weight I can possibly physically do, and then after I do that, still try to like do more weight, right? And it's like I'm literally like killing myself just to get that much closer, right? And in that sense, maybe it's good, right? Because it's pushing me further. But in a general sense, I think it's just bad because it's like I'm trying to do something that I'm not ready for yet, right? It's like I'm trying to run or sprint before I even learn how to walk or jog, right? And I think there's levels to our growth. And I think that's one of the more important things we should be comparing ourselves to is like your growth, right? Like, where are you going? Where are you coming from? To kind of keep yourself in check and balance and see, what's next for you. And so with that, I want to ask you, what is next for you in terms of your photography?
That's a difficult one. I mean, all of my photos I've currently taken have all been in Arizona. Since I've had a camera, I have not left Arizona. I've gone into different cities, but I have not left the state boundary. I do want to go up to upcoming places like Utah. I love Utah, and I think the landmarks out there are spectacular. I also want to try going to New York for like about a week, just wandering the streets with my camera. I think that'd be so sick because I've seen. I love cityscape shots on camera. They just have such a, I don't know, like pleasant look to them.
Agreed.
And the way you can edit them, I can't really I can't explain what it kind of looks like to me, but it seems very aesthetically pleasing. And I just want to have some of those under my own belt,
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think getting a camera is the first step of being a photographer, and the second step is paying all your expenses to go travel.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
it is really cool having a camera. And the cool thing is this is one of my cooler points is, when we live in an area, we get used to it. Like, when you go to vacation, you go to a certain area and you're like, wow, this is crazy. There's trees here. Or, it's so flat. There's no mountains.
Mhm.
You start noticing these differences, and then you come back and you can compare them. With the camera in Tucson and stuck in here, I'm just kind of going around town because I'm working in college and I have to stay central for whatever. It kind of helps you realize the main areas of Tucson that you can kind of change the perspective of and take a picture how the lens sees it, because it's kind of explain, or it's hard to explain, because I'm just trying to say that it's when you're stuck in an area and you have so many things that you've already shot, you tend to look out for different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up bringing out some really cool details in certain things that you thought were never there until you explored.
Right.
So it's really cool, but I definitely do want to go out and travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That makes sense. By the way, hit me up for those travel, because the photography is one thing. And I do want to potentially get into it. My sister also wants to get into it. But travel is my number one love. So hit me up. I'll travel around. I'll help you carry some of your camera equipment, and then you do your thing, and I'll go have a drink or something.
Give me the lens. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially New York. Especially New York, by the way. New York is awesome. Took a lot of pictures when I was there, just from my iPhone as well. So nothing special, but I sent them to Johnny, and yeah, they're pretty cool for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
The one cool thing, real
Go ahead.
quick, the one really cool thing about the camera style that I shoot is I'll show you real quick. I have a lens that is called telephoto. It just means very zoomed in.
oh, okay.
Okay.
And it's like one of these.
Ooh.
It's about 5 pounds and it fucking sucks to carry around.
Damn.
But it's cool how it kind of morphs the shot. Like if I showed you an iPhone picture of a sunset and then showed you what my camera can take in a sunset, you'd be like, is that the same shot?
Yeah.
But when you zoom into certain things,
Mhm.
I'm not really sure what the word is. I think it's parallax, but your camera will create a lot of parallax, which is kind of, or depth
Mm-hmm.
when you're zoomed that in. So it looks like a whole different environment
I see what you mean.
versus your phone kind of has like a circular or spherical warp
Yeah.
just because of the wide camera lens. So it's one of those cool things that I never really stood out to me before I started shooting photography. And then I bought that lens and haven't been able to put away since. It's really hard for me to grab a wide angle lens. It's always on there. So
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, it's really cool.
That's pretty dope.
And tell us, John, how much did that Pringles can cost you?
We're not going to talk about that. I will say it is the cheaper one out of some of the crazy ones you can get. I have, it's called a Sigma lens, and it's kind of a third party. But I do want to get a Sony lens, and it zooms in a little bit further than that, but it's also around $2,200.
That's crazy.
So-
I have seen videos of
I think it'll be a little bit.
yeah, I've seen videos of this one camera that like literally goes from like zero zoom in and zooms all the way to the moon, and I was like, what the fuck, yo? Like,
Yeah.
how, what? That literally
Yeah.
seemed fake. Like, nah, dude, that doesn't make sense. Like, it literally looks like this
What's
like
insane?
cannon, like a literal like army cannon thing that you would shoot out. But
over
it's
the
just
shoulder.
literally, it's like goes all the way to the, yeah, like a bazooka. It goes all the way to the moon, and I'm like, damn, like that sounds expensive.
What's crazy is that they managed to fit technology like that into that Samsung phone.
Yep.
Do you know which one I'm talking? It's like the 21 Ultra or something.
Is it?
It's one of those that
Yeah.
has that like
Yeah.
100 times optical zoom, or it's 20 times optical and then 80 times digital. But still, it's able to pick up a picture of the moon and you can see shadows,
Yeah.
That's crazy.
which is pretty nuts considering it's a handheld device.
Yeah. That's insane.
Yes.
That's
I
pretty
thought, didn't you have it, Juan? Or was it somebody else?
What?
That phone
That
that like
phone?
took pictures of the moon.
No, I didn't. I mean, I can take pictures of the
Oh,
moon. Yeah.
I had it.
It's gonna
I had
be
it
this
for about
fucking
2
dot.
weeks and then I sold it.
Sick.
the Craigslist thing.
That's his fucking thing. I swear. Like that drone is
I bought
gonna
it for
sell
cheap.
in like 2
used
months.
it.
Yeah, I know.
I bought it for cheap. Realized I was just so native to the iOS system or operating system, and I had to return it, or not return it, but sell
Flip
it
it.
again. because I was just like, this is too different. I have to go back to iPhone.
Yeah.
No,
It's
that
a
makes
whole
sense.
different like interface and everything. It's hard to get used to a different kind of phone when you've been with Apple for a while. I'll say I'm a victim of that.
That's when you know you're getting
No,
old.
damn. You see the gray hairs? What's going on?
I know.
Yeah, right. For real.
When I tried using it, I was like, shit. Like there are some gray hairs here.
Sick.
You get the optical zoom and you start looking at your head. You're like, wait, what's going on?
Bring out my bifocals, you know.
For real. Sick.
The fact that you call them bifocals.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, no, that's really cool, man. I really like what you do, and I mean, I myself, I'm not really, I guess, so involved into photography and stuff, but with our podcast page, I've become a little bit more involved in creating content and stuff like reels and stuff, like landscapes, and that is something that I was interested in, like back in the day when I think I got my first iPhone, which was the iPhone 4, like freshman year of high school. But they'd always be super shaky, and those cameras weren't all that great. But with the one I have now, like I can get some pretty decent shots, and I myself enjoy going through the whole process. Like while I'm recording, I'm like, oh, I got to make sure I kind of get it from this point of view or this angle. I want to make sure it's crisp and clean. I don't want to get it all shaky and stuff, and kind of just like see what I come up with. So I definitely see what you mean. Like in terms of like putting it on social media, right? It's like you'll get so involved in something, take hours making like 30 seconds or a minute of video, and then putting it online, and you're just kind of waiting, like, okay, is anybody else going to notice this? Is anybody else going to see, right? Like waiting for other people's validation, right? And yeah, that is kind of like a double-edged sword there, because it's like, obviously you want the likes, you want the comments, to kind of let you know, like, hey, like you're doing something cool, but then at the same time, it's like, then you continue to come back for that sense of validation, right? And it's like, if you don't receive it, but you work twice as hard as your previous post, you're just kind of like, is it still worth it, right? But nah, man, what you do is awesome, man. Keep grinding away, man. You'll continue to come up with some pretty cool stuff, man. Looking forward to see what else you come up with.
Yeah, I will say that I'd say that the art topic of photography does not stop at the photo. I think it stops once you get it posted. I think finding a way to engage an audience and a group of people to kind of grow or like your page or follow you or get together. I think that's part of the process too. I mean, the other day, like I said with that one post earlier, it took me about an hour to do, but the engagement was just killer. I was loving it, and there are some things that I need to tweak out, and there are some questions I have that aren't answered because of not that much knowledge in the field yet. But I'm excited to see what I can do in the future and how I can optimize it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And also a note of that, right? I mean, aside from the Instagram page, you have your own website to sell your art, right? Which he made himself. I just want to add there, because that's the difficult part. As someone who knows about programming, I have not made my own website. I know a bit about front-end engineering, but that's pretty commendable. What did you build it in, like a weekend, you said?
About 3 days. I mean, it's not fully done yet. I have my whole astrophotography album on there. It's not fully, because like I said, I do astrophotography and then I have my regular camera, and I try to put a fine line between them both, separate them. But I have the astro gallery set up. The landscapes, I mean, I have to have, say, I want to put around 200 on the website. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I am still working and compressing the files so that it's not a full resolution file on the web until someone buys it. But I will say something that was very interesting when creating it is before you go into it, you're like, yeah, this looks sick. You have all these ideas of what you want it to look like. And then you get to the website and you're like, shit, this is actually kind of tough. I don't know what I want to put here. Yeah. But it's a process, and it's a lot of revision and, making sure you word things correctly and you don't seem too intrusive with your intro to the website and stuff, and make sure you're welcoming. So, I mean, once you get all those together, it looks a lot better. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I'd say I still have a little bit of work to do. It's mainly targeted towards what I want to do is, because you have such a competitive market online. I don't know about you guys, but I bet you're not looking up wall art on Google every day, trying to look for buying some $200 pictures. So
damn,
I think what's best is to kind of, I'm marketing it on the website so I can, what I want to do is get a flyer and kind of introduce myself and show a few of my photos with a QR code. And I want to kind of get door hangers and put them on people's doors around my neighborhood. So once they scan that QR code, they can say, oh, I like this picture, type in the title, let me know their name, their address, and then I stop at their house with my actual like full resolution gallery.
Yeah.
I talk to them, kind of get them to know trying to create that connection, and see what I can do from there. Because I think it's really hard to sell something without a connection, especially something without much value behind it, and something out of the blue that much. So
Right.
I think the connection's a part of it, and that's why I'm making the website around that. I do have the option of creating a store on the website, but I'd like to wait until I get more of an audience to do that. I don't want to kind of throw it out there and disappoint myself with low traffic. That makes sense. I kind of want to see results once I put out something. So for now, I think it's just going to be solely a meeting setup type thing with myself and customers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see where it goes. But like I said, there's steps to the launches of different things with how you develop your brand.
Yeah, for sure. That's pretty. So that gets to the other, I guess, large part of like how I see Johnny. So astrophotography, there's education and stuff. So, we might get into that, but like entrepreneurship, that's the one that I think, I mean, when we met, it was my sister. So it was at Starbucks. So my sister was like, oh, there's this friend I made in Starbucks. And I was like, all right, cool. And she's like, oh yeah, he's really into programming. He wants to get into it. I was like, oh, all right, cool. So literally from that, we started talking about programming, so on and so forth. So that's how we started talking about it. Cause like at that point I was just a tutor, in data science. Now obviously like I'm a data scientist. That was the initial medium though through which we communicated, but then quickly that turned into entrepreneurship super quick as soon as I started talking about like my website that I'm working on. And then he had this idea of like some NFC chips and the photography, and he's like, yeah, he's our people for sure, because he be talking about every time I see him, yo, guess what I'm doing? Like, check this other thing out. Oh, he's gonna go get it. What? Yeah.
Yep, I got it right here. So, Omar, this is it's a little tag, and this is kind of just a show off right now for myself, but it was supposed to go on keychains and stuff like that. And it carries pretty much a VCF contact of myself, my website, email, Instagram, all that stuff, and it just directly puts it into the phone. So I sit here, I hold it here, watch it not work.
Oh, there it is.
There you go. Yeah. So that pops up.
I said the wrong thing.
Oh, that's Instagram.
Watch the nudes come up.
Got to close that out. Not sure.
Is it kind of like the same function as like AirDrop?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think so, because it has to be like a touch sort of thing.
Okay, there we go. So I click on the link that comes up, and then my contact comes up directly into the iPhone and stuff. And then you just save the contact to your phone like that. But I mean, I've used it. It's been really cool when I sell photography gear, because they're like, hey, can I have your number just in case something goes wrong? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Up. I tap it to their phone. They're like, whoa, where'd you get that?
I made it.
And I was like, I made it. I made
That's pretty badass, dude.
Yeah. But it was funny because it kind of died off, but it was a fun little drive for me. Kind of, I get really excited with these things, and I think something my ADHD helps with is just massive drives for just random shit. But
that's awesome.
Like I remember I told Juan, I was like, I want to make one of these myself and start marketing it. And I ended up going out and finding a 3D printer on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
Literally.
I started creating CAD files online, and I made the blueprint for it. Threw it in the printer, printed up some bodies. I mean, I still have a huge collection of all the tags and all this stuff. These are all the housing bodies with the chips.
Damn.
But I mean, it was a fun little thing. I think if I did want to do it again, and I know how to go about it, but the thing is do I have time to do it? So
that's.
But I always try to fund that part of my head as far as thoughts of creating something or trying to entertain myself and others.
Yeah, and a quick question. So, like, if you go out on a date and you meet a girl that you like, do you just tap their forehead with it? Like, hey, hit me up?
Yep.
So here are my digits.
Yeah. Stamp.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome, man. I really appreciate the level that you're at of like doing different things. You know, that's something Juan and I have discussed before, where it's like once you get the ball rolling, you just kind of start realizing like anything is possible, like literally anything and everything. And it's like you want to spread yourself so thin into a bunch of different ventures, and then you come across that issue, right? It's like I don't have enough time. It's like I want to do all this cool stuff, but I don't have enough time. And then it's like you start really scheduling your days so you can make time for all these things. And then again, you hit that plateau. You're like, damn it, I have no more time, right? That's badass,
Yeah.
man. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. So he made
Only if we had more time.
He made me one of those. So I got one of those, one of the few, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Honestly, I think I don't know where I heard it, but I heard from like some entrepreneur, old guy who's like, by the time you're like 30, you should have 5 failed businesses or something like that, right? I mean, obviously, it's awesome if you have a successful one, but at the very least, I think it was 30 or 25. I don't know what it was. You want to have like a couple big entrepreneurial ventures that you went into but failed, and that's something that I'm always trying to do as well. And the failure part is the part that bothers me, because anyone who knows me, I don't like to fail. But I always look at it in the same sort of sense as like, you know, the stuff that Johnny makes sometimes, because he's like, he'll dive into it, then he'll have other stuff that you have to just move on, right? And he might come back to the chips, or you know, he may not, but he has that experience at this point, right? He's gained the experience of, this is how I make these chips, this is how I can think about marketing them, right? I'm sure that helped him with like growing his Instagram page for his photography, and knowing how to build that website for his photography. I'm sure it's going to help him with his education and programming, right? Those are all the things that really, we don't think about them because we think like, oh, I have this idea and this project and this other thing, but they all connect together. And that is the stuff that I think what that person was saying when they were saying like, hey, you want to fail 5 businesses by the time you're 30? That is what I think they were aiming at. You have the experience and you have those failures. And once you're at the point of like, let's say 30, you have probably a lot more funds, you have more connections, friends. And that's when you really have like all that momentum, all those failures, all that just piles up. You have the funds, you have the connections, and you just sort of take off from that point. So definitely something I've like taken to heart, and Johnny, I feel like is going to definitely reach that point a lot earlier than most, but that's awesome. You definitely need someone to, you know, he genuinely pushes me on the entrepreneurial side, because I'm like, damn, this kid just came up with like 2 new things within like 2 weeks. And I'm like, damn, what am I doing? Right. And yeah, we all have our jobs.
Yeah, I'm always texting Juan.
Yeah, we all have like our jobs. We all have like school and stuff. And I get that there's a lot of like built-in excuses into life, but who cares? No one's asking about those excuses, right? You're still getting it done. You're still having to do all of these different things. So, you know, definitely, like I said, you bring that challenge to me from the entrepreneurial perspective, because you're on like a new thing every fucking weekend. And I'm like, God damn, I got to keep up with this kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's some of the most random stuff too. It's one week it's a business card, the next week it's a website, the next week it's something that works with a TV.
That's random. Crazy. That's crazy. And I just had like an idea, like, what if you were to virtualize those chips in the form of an NFT, right? And you connect the NFT through your astrophotography, where that NFT would be a portal to perhaps like limited edition or exclusive shots that you want to share or promote, that perhaps either you can't sell for that high of a price, although you know it's worth it, or, you know, they're just exclusive shots that you want to limit to the amount of people that can actually access them. So it's like you can
already
give
thought
out
about
those
that, by the way.
physical chips. God damn it. I was probably thinking you had too.
Yeah. I went into the NFT talk with a few of my friends from my old middle school. They kind of reached back out to me and was like, hey, we're creating this community called, I think it's like SoulPix or something. And it was pretty cool. You know, there's some really good photographers in there, but the issue I have with some of the NFTs, I've kind of dropped out of it fully at this point, is it just seems like such a pump and dump community. There's so much like traffic brought into it, but there's nothing as far as like teamwork to
Right.
build everybody. It's, I'm in now, but I'm not in next week. It's not a steady community. That's what I'm trying to say. And I had a hard issue, standing with a community that would help me get traffic, but also, next week I'm at the bottom of the list. And doing it something as an individual is very hard because, the Instagram hassle of growing a community. It's not anything fast.
Yeah.
It's built up over time. And, if I did grow the audience, it would have to be on Twitter. But like I said, on Twitter, you have people that following thousands of different NFTs thinking, like, which one do I buy? And it's not really it's not really a relationship. It's more of a just, I support you.
Yeah.
Kind of loose end. So, I mean, it's a really weird area trying to figure out where I want my photos to go, but I think the best thing is just to stick with good
bet
old
on
prints.
yourself. That's fair. I mean, for NFTs, I think at least myself personally, one of the people I saw that was like the biggest advocate for them was like Gary V. And like he was just pushing. I think he's still to this day still pushing them. And yeah, I never understood what the whole like frenzy was. Like I understood initially when it was like a really big item, everybody wanted to hop on it with the monkey pics or all that, but the thing is, you only ever really heard about those and like a few other, maybe because there was like big companies behind it. And that was it. I'm like, what about the creators that are like everyday people? Like, where are they at? There was this one guy who had like taken a bunch of pictures of himself for an extended amount of time, right? That one became a viral sensation. But again, it's like it was the rare occasion, and it all seemed very random. I didn't see any sort of like stability there. And at first I thought it was a cool idea because a lot of artists were going to begin to start implementing that system into the music industry, right? Where you promote your album, right? You can buy or purchase the album through that NFT. But then the artist would release the album anyways later on. So then like the NFT became kind of worthless, right? So yeah, I see that. Who knows? Maybe NFTs will make a return. I don't know.
The issue, because the NFTs are cool, but I feel like there's just so many underlining things. Like you have Gary V, which great guy, but I think he's a prime example of pumping and dumping. I've heard a lot of people say that he gets a huge audience, and then right after it spikes, he's out. But I think the unhealthy thing about NFTs is everybody going into it kind of has the whole early cryptocurrency facade of that huge spike. When Bitcoin hit, what was it, 10,000, 15,000? I'm not sure, but it was everybody remembers it. And I think everybody has that thought in their head, like, oh, it's a sort of gambling in some way. But I think honestly, just a cryptocurrency market is the best thing for that. I think NFTs are a little risky because you do have the chance of just, holding on to it and no one wants it anymore. With actual cryptocurrencies like Ethereum or Bitcoin, it is very volatile, but it does follow a certain pattern. NFTs, it's just like a shot in the dark. You could get rich off of them, but also could go straight down the hill. Yeah. But it's just such a competitive market too, because it's like people, creating these shit coins.
Shit
coins. About that one.
Yeah, it's just trash. It's the same thing. It's just trash coins that they promote. People jump on it, then they sell it, and they get out. And right now, the thing is, right now, largely the crypto community wants more regulation from the federal government for reasons like that, because all those people are getting screwed over really, really badly, because there's technically no law for them, since crypto is such an emerging market, that would say that's illegal for you to create this trash coin, this shit coin, and push people to buy it, then you sell it, and then it's worth nothing, and that was your only real goal. And the thing is, they're called that because there's so many of them as well. Like you could literally go on the internet and like learn how to make one, because the whole purpose is these people want to make it as easily as possible, no overhead costs, pump it, you sell it, you leave, and everyone who bought into it is broke. Like broke, right? This is the type of thing where if it rises like 400%, it's going to drop down 400%, almost, to the point. It was like zero. So yeah.
A good example is they make it really deceptive too because they follow trends in media. Like, remember Squid Games when that
There's a
came out?
Squid
Everybody
Game
was just
coin.
Squid Games this, Squid Games that. There's a Squid Games coin, and I believe it was up for about 3 days, and then hit a high cap, and then gone.
Exactly. They
Terrible.
made a Elon Musk coin or something as well at some point.
A Musk coin.
A Musk coin or something.
Yep.
Same exact thing. It went all the way up, some crazy amount. And then the thing is about it, like, the people who benefit are the developers. So people who know how to make them, they make it, and they make it in a way so obviously they make it so they can have as much as they want. So they have, I don't know, 3 million coins of whatever it is at like 0.0000001 cent. And the second it goes to 0.00002 cents, which is a huge spike in relative terms, they sell everything and they make a lot of money, but everyone else gets screwed over. So it's honestly a type of scam.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that was like a red flag for me too was that initially when NFTs were emerging, they were using images, just like still images, like JPEGs or whatever they could get from anywhere on the internet, that wasn't even their own, but they were using those as NFTs. And then there was this whole kind of like lawsuit where it's like, well, you're not even the original owner of that image. So like, what gives you the right to try to monetize that, right? And that was like another thing that was like really weird to me. I'm like, I thought this was meant to be for creators, like for people to, you know, produce and sell their content on a different platform. I didn't realize people were stealing people's content. I'm like, well, what's the point of that, right? So there's also that aspect to it. That was kind of like a red flag initially, but I guess we'll see what happens with all those monkey and shit coins, right?
The Bored Apes.
Yeah, maybe we're wrong. Yeah, like, you know, a couple of years from now, people become like billionaires off of that. They're like, hey, weren't the people on the Intrinsic podcast talking about that one day?
Fucking idiots.
Clip it. Yeah, idiots. Yeah, okay. And so since we're talking about like investing and entrepreneurship, John, what is your goal in the entrepreneurial sense within, say, 5 to 10 years?
I mean, number one at the top of that list is being financially stable. I will say until about 2021, I was just, you know, paycheck to paycheck. I'm buying fucking everything I see type shit. Like, food's on me, drinks on me, shit.
Damn. Why did I not know you at that point?
But I mean, once I started...
that would have been good.
But I started realizing, I was like, this fucking sucks. Like, I hate stressing out over numbers in my bank account. And I just started, you know, like setting up a deposit that's like $200, or I think it's $200 a month or $100 every 2 weeks. And I just watched it grow, and it became somewhat satisfying to see the numbers just stack up over time. And that's my number one thing. I want to be able to buy a house here in a few years. But I also, you know, like, I also want to create a business for myself. Nothing crazy, nothing like the new Apple, of course, but something that I could back my name behind and, you know, be somewhat happy with. Like the business card thing, it was cool, but it lacked a traffic. You know, I didn't really throw it out there. I kind of talked about it, but never pitched to people. But I'm trying to keep a very open mind about new things I could be doing. Something my dad always tells me is, you know, he sees all these things I do and he says, don't reinvent the wheel. You know, you're going to be competing with people. But something I struggle with is like thinking of the unknown or something new or something that can help somebody out. It's just a very tough thing because it's not like, oh yeah, this. It takes a lot of thought. So, I mean, I'm just trying to stay very curious and creative about certain applications that I could make a product that could help people with. I mean, with coding and stuff and Python, there's so many things I want to do, but they're not like big business ideas. So I mean, I'm just trying to really stay open to the future and what I can think up.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I mean, you said you're 21, right? So you're in your early 20s. Juan and myself are in our mid 20s, right? And I'm gonna say this, but I don't want to sound like an old fart, you know. But let me just put that context answer. Damn it!
There's a gray hair sticking out of your head.
You fell into that one.
It's a hat, okay. Yeah. I used to hear this all the time from some of my clients from back in the day, and as well as like when I was younger, just like from either teachers or just other people that were somewhat of like mentors in my life. And I would always ask them like, oh, like what's something that you would, give me as an advice or a tip, and they'd be like, just stay young. And I'd be like, oh, well, all right. Yeah, cool, bro. Like, let me just, hydrate my face and use all these like face masks and stuff, and I would always take it as a joke because I'm like, well, that's impossible. Like, that's physically impossible. Like, unless you're trying to play the whole game of like filling your face with Botox and this and that, like it's impossible. Right. But then later on, I realized like they were talking about the mindset, the mentality. Which I think is something that you have. It's a very, very good quality to have, right? Because sometimes you'll burn yourself out, you stress yourself out with all the pressure of life and everything you got going on. But amidst all that, you're excelling, man. Like you're really pushing yourself. You have that drive, whether it's one thing after another, and you're like, I'm kind of over that. Let's move on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one. I think that's an amazing thing to have. It's an amazing quality, right? Because that's the youth mindset. It's like the curiosity, if you will. I think that's going to be one of the things that if you continue to carry with yourself, for your later years, I mean, you're going to reach some crazy spots in life, man, because that kind of curiosity can literally lead to some of the greatest inventions in the world, I think, and perhaps, maybe don't reinvent the wheel, but who knows? Maybe you do. What if you do? Right? That's always a thing. It's like, but what if you do? Right? Because at the end of the day, there's nobody like you. There's nobody like Juan. There's nobody like me. Right? Sometimes we when Juan and I are talking, we just bounce ideas off of each other and we're like, yeah, I could see that happening. Or, yeah, that's kind of cool. And then we think about it. We probably forget about it. But then who knows? Maybe later on, a couple years later, we make some connections, we network, and they're like, hey, dude, like I just realized I'm actually going to make that a thing now. Like I got this going now. Right? And then maybe you do reinvent the wheel. Maybe you do change the world. Maybe the invention that you come up with can literally change human quality of life, right? And so I think it's important to keep that because without people like that, without people like you, without people like Juan, without people like myself, where would life be? People would be living a very average life with a lot less technology, a lot less convenience. People are probably walking everywhere still. Right. And so we need that, right? We need to support people like that. We need to continue to push that drive in people to continue to build, to continue to grow, because honestly, that's what makes the world go round. It's that curiosity, the youth mentality, right?
Yeah.
I feel that. That's something I can't get away from, to be honest. But the one thing I have an issue with is my ADHD. I mean, as you can tell, I've been sitting in my chair fucking back and forth all day, but I have a hard time sitting still. And it's weird because I'm able to focus really, really well in certain situations. Like if I'm trying to impress or, just put out good work, like at Starbucks or with a project or with school, I'm able to focus in and get that thing done. But when I don't have to focus on something and it's like time to relax, I have the hardest time just like being happy with myself. I always feel like shit at the end of the day when I have a day off and I didn't do anything.
Yeah,
so
same.
I didn't do anything.
Yep.
I feel so lazy. But it's hard to just sit there and be content in the moment with, just kind of relaxing for a little bit. Like I just bought a PS5 last month, and it's hard for me to play it and be like, shit, and do anything productive.
Yeah.
So it's one of those hard things, but I do think the random spurs of drives and stuff I have for certain passions or excelling in work from the ADHD, I think that's a great thing. And it's been a kind of a fight because there are situations where I can't focus and I can't sit still and I do want to get medication for it. But it's also trying to determine if I really want to mute that side of my head and go straight into focus mode, because I've heard with other people is they lose some of their personality when they start taking what's it called? It's the ADHD. There you go. And it's really easy to just focus in and lose somewhat of yourself. That's something I'm scared of because I have all these branches of shit I like to do, and I don't want to see any of them get cut off because I do really enjoy what I am currently going through in life. So
100%.
Some of those weird areas.
Yeah, I think, Omar and I have talked about this like quite a bit. We're also not big advocates for like taking drugs to solve your, any sort of mental issues. There are of course very extreme cases where it's almost like a necessity, but for most cases, I think, they're
Yeah.
mild symptoms. I think dealing with them is not the easiest thing, but I think it's the best thing for the future, because you think about something like that, right? But even things that are like technically everything's like diagnosable at this point, but something like anxiety didn't used to be something that was really diagnosable, right? But where does that come from? It's just the day, the present day that we live in, right? All the stress of work, all the stress of education, all the stress of the government and the institutions that we've built, and the war over here and the market crashing over here, right? I mean, like, these are insane things that are going on all the time, that even if you just think about like anxiety and stress, and I know that there are people like that I know that take like medication for that, is like, how are you going to be able to deal with that in the future, right? To me, I'm not so much concerned about like the present, even for myself. I'm more concerned about the future, your habits, your, if you start taking this drug now, what is it going to do to you 10, 20 years ago? I'm not even talking about like physiologically. I'm just talking about your mentality. How is it going to affect you that when something goes wrong, you go and you open the bottle of pills? How is it going to affect you when things aren't, you're not focused and fuck, I really need to get this done. You go and you take the easy solution, right? Instead of finding your own workaround of, okay, right now I need to focus. Right now I can just fuck around and do whatever I want. Like, this is what I can do. This is what I can't do. And if I really need to focus, maybe I need to go for a walk first and then get that out of my system for a little bit, come back and get to work, right? But I think like finding the way that you do you and your life is one of the hardest things, but it's also one of the most rewarding things in the long term, because like you said, the goal is like when you're 50, when you're 60, when you actually have the gray hairs, you're still you, right? You're still you, and you're still true to yourself, whatever that person is at that point. Of course, you'll change a lot from now until then, but those changes should be voluntary, right? It should be you choosing to change, not, the medication or the doctor or society choosing and forcing you to change. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Something I tell myself when I'm having a hard time, like I start getting down on myself for not being able to focus, and I do start thinking, maybe Adderall could help me in the future. Something I try to tell myself is I want to be able to depend on myself when I need help, not a
outside source
object or a medication. I want to be all me, not something else. So that's what I tell myself, and I'm pretty content about not taking any prescriptions. But I try to look at it as a blessing in disguise, if that makes sense. Because I mean, there are situations where I'm just yapping, blah, 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 and won't do anything. But like the whole thing we've been talking about is having that drive to excel in certain fields, and just stay in the motions. That's something I've really enjoyed. I think early on in life, I was like, yeah, I should probably be taking ADHD, but I think now, as I've matured a little bit more and realized the true potential of myself, I do think that it would be more of a blockage than a.
No, there you go. Yeah, no, I mean, so I agree. I think everybody struggles with their own mental health, especially nowadays. I myself am an advocate for not trying to take any sort of medication, because from my experience, I self-medicated. I didn't take actual pills, but I medicated in another sense. And, yeah. I mean, that's what you call it, right? Because you're not necessarily going to a doctor getting a prescription. You're finding your other avenues, if you will. But I wished, if I were to have the capability to go back in time, I wish I had just waited and saw it through. Because what I realize now is that whatever quote unquote imperfections we have, right, those build character. Those make you who you are. It's a part of our identity, right? If you can't sit still for too long, that's who you are. Like, oh, well, there's John again, he's going on a walk, whatever. But it's part of you, right? It's your identity, right? And I don't think it's necessarily correct to want to correct that, right? Because at an early age, you really don't know what's going to come out of it, right? Because you're not fully developed yet, because you have yet to experience a lot of life, right? And so you really don't know how it's going to affect you for the rest of your life, right? Maybe once you're later on, I don't know, 40s, 50s, if you really feel like it's necessary, I guess, maybe, right? Speak still with like a health professional. But I think for the most part, things are fairly tolerable. I think that's one thing that we've lost nowadays is we don't realize that life is tolerable. Yeah, life is hard. Life is difficult. There's a lot of challenges when you're working hard, when you're pushing yourself, when you're trying to strive for that next goal, right? But it's tolerable, right? In the moment, right, when you're facing the challenge, you're feeling all the pressure, you're feeling all the weight on your shoulders, you're feeling stressed, maybe anxious. But once it's over, you're like, okay, now I get to, find an outlet, right? Whether it's you taking some shots of, some stars out there in the sky, right? Getting those cool shots at night, or, Juan is like waking up early in the mornings, hitting the gym, right? I myself like to go to the gym, or whatever, right? Going out with friends, having a good time. We all have those outlets. And I think if you look for outlets instead of trying to search that through some sort of a medication or some sort of prescription, I think most people would realize that those things are really tolerable and you can use those to your advantage. They build character, really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see that as like an analogy, like on my hikes. It could be a really steep hike and it could suck in the moment, but it is doable.
There
And
you
once
go.
you get to the top, it's a beautiful view. It's one of those things that's push, and another thing is, if it's not hard, you get to the
Exactly.
top, are you going to feel accomplished?
Nope.
You want a little bit of pushback, so you know that all you can see that all that you went through. That's what creates the
Absolutely.
feeling of accomplishment.
100%. Well, I think that's a pretty good place to leave it. We're a little bit over time, but again, really appreciate you coming on, talking about your life, about your entrepreneurship. I honestly, I've known you for some time, but I'm glad that you came on just for the sake of the podcast and for you. But also, I was telling Omar, like I talked to him, but I've never really talked like deeply with him about a lot of things. Because usually, like, of course, like sort of in Starbucks, you're working and he's just like, "Hey, dude, I built this. Like, all right, cool. All right, see you, man."
Sorry, give
but
me
it's
coffee.
also
I gotta go.
no, but yeah, but it's also like I love these sort of conversations with like all the people that I know, because to me it's like, who are you in reality, right? Like all the projects, all that stuff is great for sure, but like it comes from a much smaller internal part of who we are, right? And that's just like our drive and who we actually want to be in the future. So in any case, do you have any last sort of words of wisdom? It doesn't have to be a quote, whatever it is that you want to leave the audience with.
I think I would like to say that, never stop exploring. There are passions that are hidden within your future life that I think you will find and just run with them. One of them is photography for me. I still have passions that might be hidden out there. Who knows? But passions allow for a nice gap in your stressful life that you can enjoy your time and be proud of what you're doing. And I think everybody needs to just, go out there and be open to stuff. Find out what your next passion is. They're always hidden. And once you find them, you'll
Awesome.
excel at them.
Awesome. Beautiful closing words from Mr. John himself. Please make sure to share with us your Instagrams and your website, anything else you'd like to promote to our fine audience out there.
Awesome. The telescope Instagram is at Stellar Illumination or Stellar_Illumination. And my landscape photography and just regular camera account is Tucson_Shutter.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll definitely be posting
social
it
media right now.
Yeah, we'll be posting
I'll
it
make
on,
sure to send
on
them over to you
YouTube,
guys.
on IG. Gonna do for sure a little collaboration with John, because he has amazing things that we want to get out there, and we also have an amazing thing that we want to get out there. So yeah, definitely look forward to that.
Yeah. Well, it was nice meeting you, man. It's been a pleasure. Thanks again for coming on. To all of our listeners, make sure to check us out on Instagram, as always, at The Intrynsic Podcast. And check this out on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, and all your other favorite listening platforms, as well as give us a share, follow, like, comments, all that good stuff. Support us, support John, and continue tuning in for some more great episodes.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Appreciate it.